live in the dungeon. This is the Dream Warrior Review. I'm Kurt Thomas.
I'm Mick Strawn.
Oh, Teen Wolf.
Okay, hit it.
An ordinary high school student discovers that his family has an unusual pedigree when he finds himself turning into a werewolf. That basically just gave away the whole movie. Don't bother watching it because that's the whole plot. So so when I was a young little lad and this movie came out, I was only like 11 years old.
Right.
And I thought it was the greatest movie ever. I made my mom make me a costume for Halloween, but we couldn't find wolf fur and a wolf mask. So I ended up finding an ape mask. And so she made me a basketball costume with an ape mask and ape arms and ape legs. And I had to explain to people because I carried a basketball.
Yeah, right. That this is Teen
They're
Wolf.
like, so you're Planet of the Apes? And I'm like, no, I'm kind of like Teen Wolf, but I'm an ape. You know, it was really lame. So anyway, I love this movie, but I've noticed it hasn't really stood the test of time as much as I thought it would.
Yes.
I will say this is a very good I think it's a kind of a spoof on teen movies at the time, because at this time there were a lot of cheesy teen movies happening.
It does remind me of a lot of the teen movies that were happening at the time.
And this is right after Back to the Future.
Right.
So they're trying to cash in on Michael J. Fox, who was enormous at the time. Like,
oh yeah,
not physically.
He was short but enormous.
He was huge.
He was huge. And I have to tell you, the makeup effects on this were terrible. I mean, terrible. And by the way, didn't his father look like a hamster?
No, his father was amazing. So actually, I saw some trivia. The director said that, Rod Daniel.
Yeah.
He said that when they tested the audiences, said that when they saw the dad, the laughing was so loud that it basically obliterated the next minute of the movie.
Right.
And so, but I think he might have misread the audience, because they probably weren't laughing because it was funny.
They were laughing because it was lame.
But no, I thought actually that's one of my favorite parts is when he opens the bathroom door.
Yeah. There. No, I love the oddball comedy moment of it.
Yeah.
But
this isn't a horror movie.
No.
This is totally a comedy. It's a teen comedy.
It's totally a teen comedy. But it is hilarious. Just the way that he just, it's funny because there's a show that has different creatures. The one that's Portland. It's filmed in Portland.
Oh.
Grim.
It's about a guy that's hunting these people that are also changed into these furry creatures. Boy, that you know what that sound is like right now?
Tribbles?
It's like, well, it's like a con. Anyway, I guess we won't go that direction.
I thought the script was good. The comedy was good.
Yeah, I mean the coach was so lame that
it was
totally
very cliche. Everything was cliche about it.
Very cliche.
It's not. I don't think it's the best movie, but it's a.
You know what? I have to tell you this is
it's a mindless movie.
I have been to every location that they filmed in.
Oh, really?
I mean, I literally was building a map in my head of the jumps across town.
Yeah.
You know, because we were supposed to be in front of the school, and then his house was right.
Well, this house was neighborhood was the same neighborhood that they used in Back to the Future.
Hey, McFly.
The McFly's house in 1955.
Right. It's in between. It's kind of in between the 405 freeway and I was going to say Santa Monica, but more Venice. You know, down on the other side of the 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. All of it, the schools I've filmed in, I've filmed on those streets. It was a very it's kind of memory time, like the hardware store.
Yeah.
I used to go in there all the time. And it changed names from the name that was in the credits to Busy Bee.
Yeah.
Busy Bee Hardware.
Right.
I swear from the shots that they were doing, I've been in there a million times, and it was kind of like great to see that.
I like the exterior of the liquor store. I just thought that was kind of a cool little building.
Driven past there before,
And so I was totally that kid. I was the douchebag that was trying to get the alcohol when I was younger. I was trying to convince my friends.
The guy with the convertible Dodge?
I wasn't as goofy as he was, or outgoing, but I was definitely like, "Hey, let's go get some beer." And then, but I never talked to anybody to taking a gun in or something. That's bizarre.
Right? See, that was a little weird. I was like, okay, see now, as a trick, as even back then, but
that kind of had that moment had kind of an American Graffiti kind of feel to it a little bit. I mean, I think that's kind of what they're trying to do, maybe. I don't know.
It was just too far.
Yeah.
You know what? It was, here, pretend like you have a gun, which is, I mean, that's something that you really like to do in L.A.,
Right.
Much as possible. I mean, I often.
And the guy at the liquor store, the guy running it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. He was sort of the way that he would just sit and.
Oh, so one thing I really liked about this time, I really liked the opening music. It totally didn't fit the movie. Like, it was totally creepy music at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I liked the opening scene with the way it sounded and the way he was like, you didn't know what was happening. Like, I just like how it opened up.
How did it open up?
With him, like, shooting a basket.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of breathing and dribbling.
Yeah, that's right.
You didn't know what was happening. I just like how it opened. And then the cheesy stuff at the end, the basketball stuff. I'm a basketball fan, so I kind of enjoyed watching that.
So, that he changes during a basketball game and everybody just rolls with it.
I like how this total loser, all he has to do to be popular is just grow some hair.
Right.
That's all you have to do.
Yeah, on your palms.
Right.
I don't think that's supposed to be a good thing. By the way, this is something that I wanted to point out.
Yeah.
I know it's a minor thing, but it's one of those weird flaws that you get, and you kind of wonder if there was a discussion about it, because when they were in the hardware store and the kid starts blowing the whistle, who is with him? His father.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Why does his dad not react to the whistle the same way?
I never even thought of that.
You never thought of that?
It didn't even occur to me.
It was, well,
at that
the
point,
thing is if the
son didn't know he was a werewolf at that point.
Yeah, I understand that.
So he was probably like trying to like not react to it, so his son didn't know. I don't know. I'm just kind of
okay.
Maybe that's how the discussion
so what
went.
You're saying? So yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was waiting when they're surfing. I was waiting for like an overpass to come and boom.
Well, I was going to point out that on the Beans' we now have the wider frame, right? Well, now I remember that whenever you look in the frame of the camera, when you would look in it, they would always tell you which lines inside of it are which are the format that we're working for. Mm-hmm. I mean, actually, it was pretty obvious. I mean, there was like a couple of different movie formats, but there was the really typical almost square TV format.
Right. Yeah.
And then there was
whatever it was.
Yeah, and then there was just the natural width of the whole frame. Right. And everything was always matted off, right, in printing, okay?
Yeah.
But obviously, they took the mats off and reprinted it recently, or at least since the time that they've widened everything. Mm-hmm. And so when I was noticing the surfing, there was a point of view shot of him up on top of the car, and out there right at the edge of frame, just really obvious for every time they cut to it, is just the safety officer on a motorcycle with flashing yellow lights. And it was like, wow, that's pretty obvious. If you want to know where the cops are, they're escorting.
Right.
So, there's that.
Yeah, this was a year after Revenge of the Nerds. The first one.
Oh, really? After the first one?
So I was thinking of if this had ever been done like before, and I looked it up, and apparently there's a movie which I'd never seen before. I Was a Teenage Werewolf in 1957.
Oh yeah, actually, I remember that.
It said it followed a similar plot, like it basically.
That's pretty much the same thing. Yeah.
And then we really should have done The Howling from 1981 or 81, early 80s. I don't remember when it was. But.
Yeah, and by the way, the Teenage Werewolf one is it's kind of based. There was a show called Dobie Gillis.
Oh,
that was kind of like based on characters that came off of that.
Who was in I Was a Teenage Werewolf?
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't.
Is that a Disney movie?
Maybe
I have seen it.
I don't think it was.
Sounds familiar to me.
I think it was more like done by the people who would do the all the Annette Funicello.
It had Michael
movies.
Landon in it.
Whoa, that's right. It was Michael Landon.
Wow.
Now I remember. Oh wow.
That's pretty cool.
Don't recognize anybody else in there, but you
no,
know.
I don't either. But yeah, okay. Anyway, so another piece of trivia.
Mm-hmm.
Michael J. Fox hated this movie so much that he refused to do the sequel.
Yeah.
And at the time, he said that Steven Spielberg is down the street and I'm making a werewolf movie. So, I thought that was hilarious. And if you've seen the sequel, he made a good choice.
Oh yeah, it was.
I mean, Jason Bateman was, he's watchable, but the movie wasn't really watchable.
Well, and you know what I wanted to talk about is that first of all, the makeup effects were just absolutely horrendous, especially there was a wide range of people applying it. I could tell because it looked completely different every time we saw it, you know, and it looked like lumpy. Really,
oh, that was the other thing. I think it took like 3 hours to put it. I don't remember. I didn't write it down, but
right.
I think it was 3 hours to put it on and like 30 minutes to take it off.
Yeah, that's pretty much standard.
Which sucks. I mean, can you imagine? Like.
What do you mean imagine? I mean, I was with Freddie most of the time on and off when he was getting makeup.
Oh, the guy that played. Well, I'm talking about for this movie.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's the same 3 to 4 hour makeup thing.
The guy that played the dad.
Yeah.
Why am I blanking on his name? James Hampton.
Yeah.
He said that he was so claustrophobic with the makeup on, it took him 30 seconds to get it off.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just rip it off. So, by the way, I thought it was kind of funny that it started with Michael J. Fox getting elf ears. That's all I could think of.
Yeah, that was bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, also the lack of actual special effects. I mean,
they shot those scenes last. Apparently.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Obviously. I mean, but I thought
legs.
Yeah, the legs. That was terrible. Oh, I mean, why couldn't they just do a couple of shots on the legs and cut back and forth to a hand at the same time? It was weak.
Yeah,
really weak. They must have not put very much in the budget for it.
They did a better job with like Jekyll and the early Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh,
like,
yeah. I also want to point out something that they were in that room. They get locked in a closet. There's a part where the two of them get locked in a closet.
Right, yeah. Him
I like
and Boof.
Yeah, and I like it when they walk out. You know, and she has like. All I could think of as she's walking away is cat scratch fever. I
was kind of disturbed that her nickname was Boof. I'm like,
yeah, there's
because if you look up Boof, it's not really. Actually, it was recently mentioned in the Kavanaugh hearings, I believe.
I think that boofing, according to him, means drinking a beer through your butt.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, but that ain't really boofing as far as I remember it, but, you know, whatever. And by the way, there was a lot of...
Did you hear that?
I noticed this, and this is something that happened a lot in the 70s, and I noticed that this is a case of it happening in the 80s, is that they didn't want to buy a whole bunch of different rock songs.
Right.
So they were rock songs that sounded like rock song, musicians that were out there, and the music was terrible through this. I mean, it was synthesizer driven, and then all of a sudden, like, a band would come in, quote unquote, but it would be like, hey, we sound just like Devo, or we sound just like this, but
I didn't think it was that bad.
No, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Oh, this is just a weird little point, and I know why they did it, but the window door in the bathroom with the curtain on there, I was like, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. The dad, this is exactly what I was thinking. The dad looked like a beaver.
Well, yeah.
Which is kind of funny because a beaver is...
they're using...
That was the school's motto.
Beaver. Actually, that was the actual logo of the Oregon State Beavers. Yeah. So I guess they got permission to use it, obviously.
And there's a line in here that are you gonna tell me you're a fag?
Yeah.
That was really,
it was pretty homophobic.
That was pretty homophobic, and yeah. Oh, I thought it was funny. There was this, when we were out on the field, and they went past the Army, the ROTC cadets, and one of them walked by, and he was whistling, "Be all that you can be." Yeah,
right.
He whistled it as he went by, and I was like, "Wow!" Wonder who put that in there.
Hey, First Sergeant. Good morning.
You can do it in the Army.
Oh, do me a favor. Look up Jay Tarsus. He was the coach.
Isn't that a part of your body?
I think that Jay Tarsus was the producer of it's the about being 30, which started a lot of people on their careers. Buffalo Bill. That's right. The Tony Reynolds Show. Bob Newhart. Yeah, this guy became a producer of like all kinds of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did a lot of producing.
I thought he was a great coach. He was excellent.
Yeah, I thought he reminded me of he was incredibly lazy.
Yeah.
And sort of went with the way the wind blew, and that reminded me of every coach that I ever had.
I think my favorite part with the coach was when at the end when he was about to play the basketball game without turning into the wolf. He was like, "Oh, fine, you're gonna get your ass kicked."
Yeah, we're gonna. I kind of get the feeling that he didn't care.
No, made a lot of money. It looks like
there was something I also wanted to point out. I don't know how many parties you went to when you were in high school, but how is it that films have so many people at every party?
Right.
I mean, I think our advantage is we just pay extras, Right. And so we can make a party of any size that we want.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen all that often. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I was at a couple. I was in an area that had parties out in orange groves, where you just built a fire in the middle of an orange grove. And
yeah, when I was in college in Colorado, Durango, Colorado, we would go out to the middle of the woods and have a little bonfire. And
yeah, but 20 people would have been a huge party,
Yeah.
And obviously, there's like 60, 70, 80 people in there.
Yeah.
But
well, the party scenes are interesting because the director actually went to Nebraska and interviewed teens about partying. And that's basically where he based everything on.
One thing that's for sure that I can tell you, if you were at that party, at the party of the filming of it, it would be absolutely dead quiet. And that would be weird. I've always thought that this crowd scenes and parties are weird.
Yeah.
Because I've always wanted to just shoot them while they're happening.
Yeah, yeah.
So that, because they do it for sound. because there's dialogue going on between two people, and they can add in all the sound of the party with ADR without any problem.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the easiest things that they do, and they do the clinking of glasses and
So when they shot the party, the crazy stuff at the end of Mother,
right, that was all absolutely silent. I can guarantee you.
because that really messed with my head. That whole.
Pinata Baby, I'm telling you. It.
I'm talking about where like the party started getting
watching.
crazier and crazier. I was getting really uncomfortable and I just wanted to die.
Yeah.
And so, but I can imagine they shot that in silence. That just kind of would blow my mind.
You just wanted to die? I just wanted to kill myself. I was just to get
I don't know
out.
how I got a mother. But
yeah, well.
let's talk about Animal House. Okay, Animal House. Those scenes.
Yes, right. Exactly. Just
crazy.
absolutely quiet. And you think about that, and that's just a standard operating procedure, and it goes for bands too. If you got a band at a concert, for the most
lip syncing
part,
pretty much, right? I mean,
well, yeah, but you're doing it quiet. There are different kinds of playback, and sometimes, like on a rock video, sometimes they would have an actual playback, but for the most part, there would be little lights that would be put around the perimeter up high that would just kind of click very softly, give you a light, and it would be like an LED, so it wouldn't affect the lighting of the scene, and you would dance and move to that beat.
wow.
I know you think this is really weird.
This is crazy.
This is just the way that you do it, and then you can lay your sound in bit by bit by bit, and you can build the party.
That makes sense.
Well, it's all about sound.
Yeah.
In fact, it was in watching another film that we were talking about that might be doing later tonight, that I was thinking that the sound made a huge difference. And sound does it always makes a huge difference. And it also dates a film. Mm-hmm. I mean, boy, the music to this is just so dated. It depends on the machines that you and you got to remember the machines that you had.
Right. Yeah.
Especially the synthesizers and stuff, because this.
Well, that was when synthesizers were at their height of popularity.
Well, yeah, but the thing is
even Rush was playing synthesizers back in this.
Yeah, but it's
1985.
for a while. Yeah, they were. But the other thing is synthesizers are really popular now for doing music on shows. Mm-hmm. And the thing is it has to do with you just have one guy that can recreate that, and that was a cheap way to do a show back then. Still is to this day. And in working on my book, Behind the Screams, go to behindthescreamsbook.com and you can order one for yourself. In the book, I'm talking to Craig Saffon.
Craig, okay.
Okay. Craig Saffon was talking about how the machines that he had that he was making music with on through change, and his sound just changed year by year by year by year as to what, and have been doing that all the way up until today. And I just thought it was funny is you mark it by the music, but the music is marked by the machines that you have.
Right. Yeah. Unless you're using like a rock soundtrack or current music, like.
Yeah, but
period music.
But
like
the thing
Book of Love is like a teenage comedy that I liked that had 1950s music in it, but it was recognizable music.
But the thing is there was music there was also music that tied together to that, mm-hmm. that went on in the background. I mean, your composer.
There's a composer.
You always have a composer, and the composer is. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street's 3 and 4 were some of the first horror films.
There were synthesizers in drums, a lot of drum beats. Right,
but 3 and 4 also was a couple of the first ones that had recognizable acts that their music was cut in and out and tied together by the guy who's doing the orchestration, the composer.
Well, unless you talk about Tuesday Night. I mean, she was really recognizable, was she?
Well, that's true.
I mean, was her music really well known at the time?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah, so, anyway. Yeah, so I just wanted to point out that it was totally music of the time, and it was the fake music, the fake rock music of the time, which would really always just is like fingernails on it.
Wow, that was weird how you did that. Like,
sorry.
Without a chalkboard. That was scary. There was a tie into this with The Howling, and I don't know what it was, but I guess maybe one of the actors was in it or something.
Was The Howling made first before this? About the same time, wasn't it?
The Howling was 1981.
Yeah, so it was before this.
Wolfen too. I don't think I ever saw Wolfen.
I think I saw them both.
So there was a lot of, apparently in the 80s there was a ton of werewolf movies.
Well, yeah, Werewolves in London.
Well, Werewolf in London actually...
was that in the 70s? No, it was the 80s.
I think wasn't it 70s? I thought it was.
Was it 70s?
Because, I mean, this list right here, I don't know if it's a complete list, obviously, but it's Wolf and the Howling,
I mean,
Howling 2.
Still to this day, the best...
Full Moon High. That was a good one.
The best makeup effect ever.
Oh, yeah. American Werewolf in London.
American Werewolf.
1981.
Yeah, 1981. The best transference from normal to wolf. Amazing.
That was a good one. Silver Bullet was not so much.
Yeah,
that was
so
same year as this one.
There's a huge a lot of really different ways of doing it, and yeah.
So if you want a mindless comedy, watch this one. If you want to see actually a cool werewolf change, see American Werewolf
in London. Yeah, it's a really cool film all the way around.
Yeah.
So what did you think of this film? I mean, as in numbers, man. Put your decimal where your
well, I like a lot of stupid comedies from the time, like Revenge of the Nerds, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
You talk about this all the time.
Ferris Bueller came in a little bit later, but this to me was a teen movie that was just kind of funny. It didn't really stand the test of time for me.
Right, yeah.
I think at 11, I'd give it a 5. When I was 11 years old, I'd give it a 5 for sure. But now it's like, I'm kind of in the middle, like 2.5, because I still enjoyed watching it. And I really enjoyed the corniness of it. I mean, I thought the makeup was horrible, but that's kind of part of the charm, I guess, in a weird way.
I just liked it for Michael. That's
Michael J. Fox. If it wasn't for him, this would have...
Oh, it would have been absolutely unwatchable.
Yeah.
And I would give it a 2.5 just for that.
Michael J. Fox
the rest of it was
always
just
been
terrible.
amazing. But the thing is...
I mean, the trip through LA locations, I really appreciated.
What's sad about Michael J., though, is he talked about how he hated being a werewolf. But if you look at the movies that followed this one, they weren't that great. Like, what was it, Doc? He was a doctor.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that was.
Yeah, he did some...
Anyway, I just wanted to point out that he was talking about his career was... He could have been doing good movies, but I know there was a time where he was doing some kind of second-rate stuff. What is that doctor movie I'm thinking of? Doc Hollywood.
Doc Hollywood, yeah. That was pretty terrible.
So, yeah, Tales from the Crypt, Doc Hollywood. He was still in the Back to the Future. I mean, those were good, but there's nothing really that stands out.
Yeah, it's a pretty...
Until I could get to the 90s. But yeah...
Well, The Frighteners. I mean, The Frighteners was... Frighteners... Yeah, no, you're right. Frighteners and Mars Attacks, Stuart Little... Yeah, it does start to get better. Spin City. Yeah, it's funny that there was a dip there from probably about a 10-year dip. Yeah.
And what's interesting is, like, that was when he still kind of had his Parkinson relatively controlled.
Yeah.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
And then it got really worse in the 90s for sure. But yeah, I mean, I've always been fascinated by him. He's always been one of my favorite actors. But I wouldn't say he's done a ton of awesome things.
Yeah. Never really thought about it.
Back to the Future is definitely one of my favorite sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't think I ever really thought about him much, to tell you the truth. I don't even think I've ever seen Back to the Future 3. I'm not even sure I've seen the second one.
Yeah. Well, you should.
I suppose.
And actually, what's funny is Doc Hollywood is watchable just because he's in it. And it's not a great movie.
That's
it's kind of the same. I feel the same way about John Ritter, by the way.
I honestly got to tell you, the 80s and the 90s were probably not my strongest movie viewing times because working on the movies precluded my
Right.
watching them just because the time involved. I didn't have any time from about 1981 to about the year 2000.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have time to like go anywhere in the evenings and see film. I occasionally would take the kids to see film, and that was another thing is R-rated films were pretty much gone because I'd take the kids and go see them on the weekend. So everybody would always be talking about the recent film. I would be like, literally to see Nightmare on Elm Street, the original and the second one, I had to go to a screening.
Right. Yeah.
A screening just for us.
Right.
To see that one.
Well, did you see Blade Runner like when it came out?
Yes.
So that was a nice thing for you to see.
But I was such a fan of that film, and everybody told me, to go see it. I'll tell you one thing. One film I really wanted to see at the time, and I didn't. Science fiction with Bruce Willis, taxi cab driver in the future.
Yeah.
Fifth Element. Yeah. Fifth Element. Yeah. Because I would listen to reviews and only, because it was rare that I could go see a film that I wanted to go see, and the reviews of it were terrible. And I wound up seeing it on tape and going, "Oh my God!
Yeah.
I didn't see this in a theater for that." It got totally panned. I was like, "Oh, come on!
Well, I'm
this is amazing."
If you read reviews of Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm sure 3 and 4. I'm sure.
Well, yeah, but horror's a different thing because you're playing the game.
Yeah.
You're playing the game with the reviewer.
You are.
As I have said before, I was walking out of I had to go take a piss when Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was showing, and as I'm walking back in from taking a piss, Kevin Turan, who was the big reviewer, was walking out, and I recognized him, and I said, well, I had talked to him before, and we got to talking in the lobby, and he goes, "So what do you think?" And he says, "Well, I'm going to give you the review that you guys need, and we'll trash it, and it will come out."
Right.
That's what we're all going to play our game, which I thought was really super jaded of him. I don't think that he liked seeing horror films. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Critics, who cares?
Yeah, but horror films at the time.
People that talk about what their opinions are about movies, who cares? Yeah, what did I just say?
Wait, hold on. But the thing is at the time, nobody who would go to see a horror film would take a reviewer's word for anything.
Right. Yeah.
That wasn't the point.
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of horror, actually.
Yeah.
I think.
Which is amazing because Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is such a good basic film. I mean, as a film, it really holds together.
I still think that's the best of all of them.
And I think that he was just being super hyper lazy.
Yeah.
And was probably drunk.
Wow.
I know, that was pretty cool to me, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for playing.
Thanks for joining us on the Dream Warrior Review podcast. Don't forget to tell your friends about us, follow us, and, of course, like us. We can be found on Podbean, which is an amazing app, YouTube, Stitcher, Alexa on any pod, iTunes, Google Play. We're on Twitter as well, at DW Review, and, of course, Facebook. You can find us there. You can also email us at dreamwarriorreview@gmail.com.